There are too many horror stories to recount coming every day from Israel's endless bombardment of Gaza, but it is so often, not so often, you get to see video of the moment of the nature that we have tonight. On Monday at 10 a.m. in the morning, Israel bombed the last remaining medical center in southern Gaza, that's Nasser Hospital, and then 7 minutes later, they struck the hospital again as the first responders, medics, and journalists were rushing to the site. That's the moment right there. You see it as they're in the site trying to help people. It's what's called a double tap strike. The same target hit twice in quick succession. The Arabic language channel Al Ghad TV caught that video, the second strike on video. Now, the strikes hit the exterior staircase of the hospital where journalists frequently go to get a Wi-Fi signal, even set up their cameras. At least 20 people were killed, including 5 journalists. Hussam al-Masri worked as a cameraman for Reuters. He was killed in the first strike on the hospital while operating a live feed for Reuters TV. Miriam Daga, one of the few female journalists covering the siege in Gaza, freelanced for the Associated Press. She shot and reported pieces like this one from 2 weeks ago on children starving in Gaza. Mohammed Salama worked for Al Jazeera and Middle East Eye. He'd been planning his wedding to another journalist, and Ahmed Abu Aziz was also with Middle East Eye. Moaz Abu Taha worked with various outlets, including the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, and occasionally had his work also published by Reuters. The Israeli military issued a statement today claiming they had targeted a camera at the hospital they claim was being used by Hamas for surveillance. They did not provide any evidence to back that assertion. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the strikes a, quote, tragic mishap. Now, Israel has not allowed foreign press to freely operate in Gaza since the war started. And so the only eyes and ears that the global press has, that includes us and here in the U.S., are the just profoundly courageous Palestinian journalists who are contracted to work for various news outlets and every single day are out there very literally putting their lives on the line to get the reporting out. Joining me now is someone who has lived and reported in Gaza, Ayman Mohaldin, co-host of The Weekend Primetime. It's good to see you, Ayman. I know you lived in Gaza for 2 years as a journalist working. The number of journalists that have died in this conflict, Palestinian journalists, we have 278 according to the Committee to Protect Journalists, 3 Lebanese journalists and 2 Israeli journalists. That's 278 journalists. I mean, there's just no conflict, even some of the worst and bloodiest, in any recent memory that's anything like this.
I mean, when you compare it to World War II, it's more than all the journalists combined in all of the wars since World War II till today, to give you a sense of what is happening. The Committee to Protect Journalists, Jody Ginsburg, came out and said that this is now obvious that Israel is deliberately targeting journalists. That was her assessment, not the independent journalists that are there or the people outside observing. This is the committee that is looking at this. And they base that on a few assertions. One, Israel basically dehumanizes the Palestinian journalists, comes out and accuses them, warns them that they're going to be targeted, and then at any given moment ultimately follows through with it, as was the case with Anas al-Sharif. They had been warning that they were going to, or signaling that they were going to target him, and then just let it be that he continued to report every day, and then ultimately decided to take that strike out.
This was an Al Jazeera journalist last week.
One of 10, yeah.
One of 10. An Al Jazeera journalist who was killed by an Israeli airstrike, which they claim credit for.
Yeah.
As they did not, in this case, they said it was a tragic mishap, or they were going for.
And then they modified it with the Hamas camera statement.
No, but I'm saying in the case of the last strike, against, they said we targeted him because they claimed he was Hamas.
Right.
That was the reason. But part of the thing too here is that they have not. I mean, Western journalistic outlets, American journalists have been asking to. Israel controls the border of who gets into and out of Gaza.
Right.
Every outlet in the world has been asking to get in, and they have not allowed it.
Yeah, and Israel is saying that it's too dangerous for journalists to go in there, and they're the ones killing the journalists that are inside of Gaza. So you can kind of see, look, let's be very honest about what this is right here. This is an attempt by Israel to control the information that comes out of Gaza, whether it is a camera, whether it is an influencer, whether it is a social media star who's doing cooking videos, or whether it is journalists who are working for all kinds of international news organizations. Israel does not want what is happening inside Gaza to be broadcast to the outside world. And so if they can prevent international journalists from going in, they can have a much better chance of delegitimizing the ones inside. They can say, hey, the ones inside are all Hamas. Their cameras are Hamas. I don't even know what a Hamas camera means, but the fact that they're willing to put out a statement and describe a camera as a Hamas camera is just ludicrous. It's absurd.
I mean, also, there was a camera positioned by that Reuters journalist there who was doing the live stream. So there was a camera. It was a Reuters camera.
Well, that's what I mean. But they know that they can just simply say, and this is the part that there is a little bit of criticism to be applied to Western media, which is the Israeli government says it's a mistake, and then they come out a day later and say, well, here's actually the statement that we're going to put out. It's a Hamas camera. They didn't even say why yesterday. They made that statement today. Yesterday, they just said, we don't have a reason. And it just goes to show you that when you kill with impunity and no accountability, you don't have to provide a reason. You can just come back later and come up with a reason as to why you are carrying out this strike. At a hospital, by the way, which is exactly where they killed Anas al-Sharif, in a tent at a hospital. I
mean, we have already seen, there were multiple Israeli hostages who had managed to escape and were shirtless, waving a white flag, who were killed by Israeli forces. There have been obviously children who have been killed by Israeli forces. There were, of course, the World Central Kitchen aid workers who were struck by a targeted strike on that car by the Israeli churches. There was the church, the last Catholic church, the only one in Gaza. The Pope had spoken to the priest. That priest he spoke to was killed. In all of these circumstances, I mean, there has been an unbelievable agglomeration of strikes against what appear to all the world like non-military targets.
And this is why I come back to this point, which is when you kill with impunity and no accountability, you can keep doing it at will because no one is going to hold you accountable for the killings that you're taking about. You can come out and say it was a mistake, but there are two things here that are at a complete odds with one another. Israel claims it is using precision strikes. It is protecting civilian lives. It is warning people. Why would you use a double tap strike on a camera? Let alone on a hospital? Why would you carry out these attacks that you're saying are precision-guided munitions, laser focused? Why do you put that out there when, as you've just outlined, time and time again, Israel's committing deadly attacks that it says are mistakes, but in reality are just simply happening day in and day out?
One of the, just a slight misstatement there, that priest actually survived. He was injured in that strike, the priest who was in that Catholic church. The sort of question of accountability and the world witnessing. I mean, one of the ironies here is to your point about wanting to control what gets out. I think the one thing that the Israeli government and military has failed at the most in this conflict is controlling that. I mean, the irony here is that the images that have come out of Gaza have massively affected both global public opinion, American public opinion you're seeing in Jewish congregations, including among Orthodox rabbis who are appalled by the humanitarian conditions and the starvation. So to the extent that the attempt is to stop the message from getting out, that has been the opposite of what's happened.
It has been the opposite of what is happening, but I go back to this other point, which is Israel is able to use excuses, provide excuses and justification that are oftentimes just reported at face value here in the United States because they're speaking to a segment of the population that are the decision makers. And yes, right now the street is not aligned with what Israel is doing and very much opposed to it, but the decision makers in this country who are maybe not aware of what is happening on a day in, day out with the protest are still very much looking at Israeli statements and say, hey, we're going to go with that statement to justify what Israel's doing.
It's a sort of, it gives some sort of cover or space. Ayman Mohyeldin, always good to have you. Thank you.